treasure finders. Today I am in southern Georgia. I am in the vicinity of the Golden Isles. This is supposedly the East Coast's best kept secret, and I just outed the Golden Islands, or Golden Isles. We have been on the road. If you follow my channel, you know that my husband and I live full-time in an RV for now, and we've been on the road for about 15 months. We are headed back up to Wisconsin for the summer. Right now it's March 4th, 2022. We are spending the next 2 months on the coast, on the East Coast, from southern Georgia all the way up to northern North Carolina, all the way up the coast. This particular video, I'm going to take you to Jekyll Island, Cumberland Island, St. Simon's Island. I'm trying to remember all the islands here. Tomorrow we have ferry tickets booked to go to Cumberland Island. And if you don't know anything about Cumberland Island, I think it's about 12 miles of just beautiful, pristine beaches. There's wild horses on Cumberland Island. I'm so excited. I've never seen wild horses before. So my husband is going to come out with me. We're going to check out the island tomorrow. Supposedly there's some great shelling out there. We're unfortunately only here for 5 days, so I'm going to cram in a bunch over the next couple days and hope to include a lot of footage from our next 5 days in this video. Today I'm going to do a little metal detecting here at my park, and then I'm going to go to Jekyll Island. There's a beach called Driftwood Beach, I believe. Driftwood Beach. I'll correct that if that's wrong. And supposedly just all kinds of beautiful driftwood there, maybe some shells, but I'm waiting until this afternoon because it's going to be low tide. So stay tuned for this video. We'll get to show you southern Georgia. In my next videos, I'll be in South Carolina and North Carolina, and then I'll be back up in Wisconsin for the summer, and we'll have lots of Lake Michigan beachcombing again. So stay tuned for today, and I'll see what I can find. Please try to stay through this whole video. I do a lot of shelling in all of our stops, and I have a little shell and tell at the end of the video, so you don't want to miss it. So we're pretty excited about this day, right?
It's gonna be a beautiful day.
It's gorgeous. It's 77 degrees, 74 degrees or something. It's warm. We're here a little bit early as usual. That's how we roll. So we've checked in for the ferry. We got here an hour early. You got to get here an hour early. And we're kind of waiting in line to board the ferry.
Yes. Oh, sure, honey.
Oh, okay. Waiting for a little orientation before we get on the ferry.
So basically a few tips and tricks, kind of info so you know where you're going, what you're doing, what not to do, all that good stuff while you're on the island today. Another quarter mile down the trail is Dungeness Ruins. Big old giant burned down mansion. You'll probably see some cool horses and armadillos and a good view of the marsh and all that good stuff. Really neat area to check out the history of the island. If you cross anywhere else, you're going to be crossing kind of through the wilderness. You'll get lost very quickly, so try to avoid that. Cross those two crossings. Make sure you're social distancing from the horses. At least 2 school bus lengths away. They do kick, they do bite, they have ticks and parasites and worms and stuff you don't want to deal with. And they're not used to you being in their business. They just want to eat grass, do horse things, and not being messed with by visitors. So for your safety and theirs, make sure you're, like I said, staying away from the horses, even like small armadillos. Make sure you're social distancing, give them their space, let them live their life, all that good stuff.
What you reading?
I'm reading about the horses of Cumberland Island.
So the campers and the bikers get off last at the second dock. They do 2 docks here. We were really happy that we brought our bikes on Cumberland Island. This is what the roads look like on Cumberland. They're gravel, but they're pretty hard packed. So our bikes did okay on the main road, but once we got off the main road, it was a lot more sand and a lot more trees and roots. So we pretty much did have to stick to the main roads. In retrospect, we rode right when we got off the island. We went to the second dock and we rode about 3 or 4 miles up the island to get to a beach access, and it took us quite a bit of time. Once we got lost first, and then it's just the road is not that close to the beach. Had I known that there was actually a better beach with better shells kind of right off of the first dock, we could have gotten up there and had a lot more time on the beach. That being said, we really enjoyed the biking out there, and if you go a couple miles away from the docks, you don't see anybody. There was a few cars that came by, people that worked on the island, and there is an inn on the island, but we didn't really see anybody. There was one other couple on bikes that we bumped into once or twice while we were out and about, but we were almost all by ourselves. So we had a little picnic out on the beach. I would definitely recommend bringing food with you because there's nowhere really to get food that we knew of. So we brought our own picnic. You have to pack in and pack out everything, leave no trace, and make sure that you have a lot of sunscreen, water, and bug spray. We didn't encounter any bugs because it was early spring when we went, so we didn't have any problem with bugs at the time. But if you are on foot, I would just get off at the first dock and you can see the Dungeness Castle remains, and you can get to the beach and you can see really a lot of what the island has to offer. We wished that we had more time. We could have gone to the very tip of the other end of the island, but we just did not have enough time. We gave ourselves 4 to 5 hours on the island, and I really wish that we had taken more time. We're having a little adult beverage for lunch. We just had our picnic, but we just biked 4.5 miles here. Another tip that I have is once you get out to the beach, it can be very windy, and with the sand blowing and the beach is a little bit hazy. I would recommend putting something that you can see really well when you're walking down the beach. We actually just left this picnic bag right where we left it so that we could see where to re-enter the path, because it all kind of looks the same when you're out there. Open. There's nothing inside.
Wow.
It's a good one. All right. Oh, I've never found anything like that before. You have to leave your bikes and hike in this very sandy dune trail. It's lovely. It reminds us of Michigan a little bit. We haven't seen any wild horses yet, but we've seen lots of evidence left behind. Huh? Armadillo. Yep, we saw an armadillo. So we're hoping to see some horses yet. We have about 2 more hours on the island. Haven't seen any yet. Literally, since we went 4 miles from the docks, we've literally seen 4 people. We've definitely gotten our exercise today with the biking we've done too. If you've never hiked the Sleeping Bear Dunes in northern Michigan, it's a lot like this. Save yourself. This is our first wild horse sighting. We haven't seen any wild horses yet.
No.
This is the beach entrance down by the sea camp, which is a lot closer to the docks. It's a really nice boardwalk and there's not much beach that you have to cover. There's a little bit of beach that you have to cover. The trees here are amazing, but if you don't want to walk for a long ways in the sand, I would recommend using this entrance to get to the beach. And actually the shells were a lot better down by the sea camp. And I wish that I had known that. I think I would have come here first. I only could come here for just a little bit towards the end of the day before we got back on the ferry. So here is the Dungeness Castle remains. It was the old Carnegie mansion, and this footage was taken by Ryan. It's kind of funny, we separated at this point because he really wanted to see the remains, and so did I, but I also wanted to do some shelling. So I gave him our action camera and he went to see the remains, and he saw a bunch of horses and it was super cool. And I went to do some more shelling, and he got on his bike and he rode back as fast as he could to find me because he knew that I wouldn't want to miss seeing this. And we literally only had about a half hour left and we beelined it back there. So we did take some more footage. I didn't get to spend a lot of time here, but it was so neat to see, and I'm really glad that we really hurried and that we had our electric bikes to go really fast to get everything in time. This is when I broke off from Ryan and went shelling down by the sea camp. And as you can see, there's a lot more shells on this beach than there were in the more secluded area. So I did find more shells here. I found a lot of moon snails, some razor clams, kind of some basic shells. But the really cool shell, the knobbed whelk that I found earlier, was definitely up in the more secluded area. So there was less shells up there, but it wasn't picked over, so I was able to find that really special shell. Here's an angel wing, and I didn't keep a ton of shells from this beach, and again, I only had about 30 minutes. So I was shelling really fast and just kind of grabbing some special ones that I could see. Oh, it was windy, very windy. They kept blowing out of my hands. The next day we headed over to St. Simon's Island for the day. St. Simon's was very beautiful and was not remote like Cumberland Island. Our first stop was at a national monument called Fort Frederica. We always like to stop at national and state parks when we're traveling. After that, we had a wonderful lunch and charcuterie board and some wine at the Golden Isles Olive Oil Company. They have a really neat little gift shop in there as well, and all kinds of little shops in that little complex. After lunch, we checked out the beaches at St. Simon's Island Lighthouse and Neptune Park and East Beach. We definitely have the Golden Isles on the short list of places we might want to spend our winters in retirement. There wasn't great shelling on St. Simon's Island, but there was a lot going on there, and we really enjoyed spending time there. Today we're starting at Fort Frederica National Monument. There's a fort here. We don't know any of the history of it yet. We're in the parking lot and we realize that the federal buildings still require masks. So I gotta go back to the car and get some masks. We think that they require masks. Some of the mask mandates have been lifted, but we're gonna grab some just in case. And we'll go check out the history of this fort. Fort Frederica in 1736 on this historic site. Fort Frederica was constructed by the early settlers of the colony of Georgia under General James Edward Oglethorpe. It was the strongest fortification built by Great Britain on American soil, and its purpose was to protect Georgia and the colonies to the north from the Spaniards. So it's really cool. They have these renderings here of what this may have looked like back when. So they have Broad Street, Alley Street, they have all these different streets lined up, and then you can see as you walk down towards the fort itself, you can see sort of the foundations of what were structures before, and they give a nice little history. Ooh, the flesh market or butcher shop. And I was reading inside that they used to extract lime from the oyster shells, and it was quite a process. But you can see these structures are all made with oyster shells. The lifespan of Frederica was brief. Most of the rooms you see represent structures built during the town's first 13 years, 1736 to 1749. After 1749, when General Oglethorpe's regiment was disbanded, the town began to die. Houses fell into ruin, and a few new ones were built, but not many. I'm absolutely blown away by the trees down here in southern Georgia. I don't know if are these those live oaks they had in Florida with all the Spanish moss. This one is. Try and wrap your arms around that tree. Show how big that tree is. That tree make you look really, really teeny. Wow. So this is a beautiful place to stop. I'm guessing in the summer it probably bakes, but today it's absolutely gorgeous. East Beach on St. Simon's Island. It is completely packed. It's a Saturday in March. Not surprising that it's completely packed. I just wanted to come and check it out. very vast beach. It must be kind of getting low, down to low tide. Not many shells here, if any. But it's beautiful here. People swimming and march. Looks like there's a cruise ship out there. So we're at the Lighthouse Museum in St. Simon's Island. This is lower tide, so probably can't walk down here during high tide, I'm guessing. You wanna walk down that way a little bit?
Yeah.
It's really the only shells on this beach are up in these rocks here. See anything too unusual. I feel like there would be some sea glass up in here. I looked carefully. There's lots of oysters. So regular clam shells. Some quartz. Some quartz pieces here. I'm sure there's sea glass up here. Oh yeah, there's a piece. It's not that tumbled. Pretty sharp, actually. Our last day in the Golden Isles, we took our bikes to Jekyll Island. It has a great trail system, so we were able to park the car and bike the whole island. We went down to the tip at St. Andrews Beach and then all the way up to Driftwood Beach at the northern tip. All three islands have something different to offer. Jekyll Island is very low-key and more remote than St. Simon's, and obviously Cumberland is the most remote of the three islands. So depending on what you are interested in, you can find it on any of those three islands. Oh wow, there is a lot of driftwood. Supposedly it's great to come here at sunset. Great photo opportunities. Here's the haul from my whirlwind trip in Georgia on the Golden Isles. I went shelling on Cumberland Island and Jekyll Island and St. Simon's Island, and I would say of the three, I found the most shells on Cumberland Island, just a few moon snails on Jekyll Island, and really not much of anything on St. Simon's Island, but it was definitely fun to check out all the differences in the beaches. So I'm going to kind of show you what I found first, and then at the end I'm going to talk a little bit more about these moon snails. I love moon snails. I think they're so beautiful, all the different colors that they come in and sizes. These are teeny compared to the ones that I found when I was down in Texas. And if you haven't seen those videos, I'll link a little playlist here to my Texas shelling. But what I want to talk about today are these drill holes. And I did talk about them in a previous video, but I kind of did a little deeper dive on the internet. It's very interesting. These little murderous cannibals have a very interesting way of capturing their prey, and I also have more information about how these drill holes are formed and stay to the end of this little wrap up if you want to hear that part. If you're not interested, you can click off when I start talking about that. So I'll start up here. This is obviously a sand dollar. These I don't usually find anywhere but the East Coast. I've found these up in Maryland before, and these are a jackknife clam and an angel wing, of course, a couple of olives, and all these moon snails or shark eyes. These I love these little sweeties. These are baby's ears. And this is just an arc shell. I just got it. It's just a very common shell. But so a lot of the shells on the East Coast are sort of common shells. I did find this really neat piece of quartz. I'm always drawn to quartz. I think I found this on St. Simon's Island. There was more rocks there. And then I found this beauty on Cumberland. This is I believe, if anybody knows differently, I think this is a knobbed whelk, which is the state seashell of Georgia. And this was pretty much buried, as you saw in the video, and I kind of dug it up with my foot and then pulled it out after that. But this was a really fun thing to find. It was absolutely beautiful. I wish I had more time out on Cumberland Island. I didn't know it would be so vast and sort of, I just needed more time. So I definitely want to go back to Cumberland to do more shelling, but this was really, really fun to find. So onto these moon snails. As you can see, a lot of them, almost all of them, have a hole right here. And some of them, the shell is very weakened by that hole. And so it's a little bit more crumbly on the edge there. But you can see they're all, and that is how they meet their demise, with this hole. Another shell comes and burrows, makes a hole in their shell, and basically sucks out the living animal inside. What I did learn is that moon snails are very predatory, and actually they're cannibals as well. I was reading one little article online by an author. Her name is Susan Scott, and she called them the nightmare on Clam Street. But they basically will prey on any other shell that they run into, including other moon snails. And you can tell that these are moon snail holes if I can get that in the sunlight. See how it's kind of beveled, and it's large, and really only the moon snail leaves that type of a hole. I don't see any of these that have a smaller hole, but some other shells do burrow into other shells, but even this little teeny hole is also beveled. So my suspicion is, and I am not a scientist, so please correct me if I'm wrong, that these moon snails were probably killed by other moon snails. And what they do is they sort of envelop their prey, and then they release some liquid to soften the shell, and then they burrow in that with their, I think it's called a radula, and it's sort of like teeth or sandpaper, and they can get right through that shell, and they just take the life of they eat it for dinner. They have some escargot. And the reason why I started researching it is because I thought it was curious that the hole is in the same place on all of these shells. Like, how does I assume there's not, a serial killer out there that has the same method, but I couldn't find the answer to that question. If anybody knows the answer to that question, please put it in the comments. My suspicion, not being a scientist, just being a sheller, is that somehow or another, when these shells get a hold of their prey, maybe they turn them to a certain position to make it easier to prey upon them. That's the only thing I can think of as why the hole is always kind of in the same place. These moon snails also prey on other shells, like other clams and such, and those holes are typically towards where the shell closes, like if it's a clam or something. Let me just show you, I guess, on here. A lot of times the hole is up in here, in this area, but it can be anywhere as well on clam shells. But almost always on these moon snails, the hole is in that spot. So if anybody knows exactly why, that was specifically what I was looking for the answer to, and I couldn't find that answer. So I would love to know if you know that. I would highly recommend checking out the Golden Isles in Georgia. It's absolutely beautiful there. My husband and I fell in love with it and actually are considering that as a place where we might want to retire someday. There wasn't a ton of shells. There actually was a lot of shells on Cumberland Island. I just didn't have the time. And I really appreciate you watching this video. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Please give me a thumbs up on this video, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate it if you would do that before you click off. And I will see you on the beach somewhere.